This book shouldn't exist. Seriously. By all normal standards, the manuscript for this book should be sitting in a folder, half finished, on a forgotten hard drive somewhere. It should be another casualty of the great idea, no time epidemic that kills millions of books before they're ever written. The person who wrote this, let's call her Sarah. She's not a full-time writer. She's a project manager at a tech company. She has 2 kids. She has a life that is packed from the moment she wakes up until the moment her head hits the pillow. For years, she had this story, this incredible idea for a young adult fantasy novel, burning a hole in her mind. She'd tried to write it. Oh, she tried. She did what we all do. She'd get a burst of inspiration on a long weekend. She'd map out the world, create the characters, and write the first 3 chapters. The prose was electric. The story was alive. She was on fire. And then Monday would happen. A big project at work would blow up. A kid would get sick. Life, in its infinite and chaotic glory, would get in the way. She wouldn't get back to her manuscript for 2 weeks. And when she finally opened the document, the magic was gone. The fire was out. She'd read her own words and feel like a stranger had written them. She couldn't remember the exact voice of the character. She couldn't feel the rhythm of the story anymore. Staring at the blinking cursor at the end of chapter 3 felt like staring into a void. So she'd close the file. I'll get back to it when I have more time, she'd tell herself. We all know how that story ends. Her hard drive was a graveyard. 3 different versions of that same novel, each one abandoned at a different stage. It was a cycle of passion, interruption, and frustration. She was convinced she just didn't have the discipline, that she wasn't a real writer. And then she stumbled upon a video, much like this one, talking about using AI. And her first reaction was predictably disgust. This is the first myth we have to incinerate right now, because it's the one that stops most talented people dead in their tracks. Myth number 1. Using AI to write is cheating. It's fake. It's not real art. Sarah believed this with her whole heart. She was an artist. Her words were her own. The idea of using a robot felt like hiring someone to write the book for her. It felt like a fraud, so she dismissed it for months. But that story wouldn't leave her alone. The frustration of seeing her dream die on the vine was becoming more painful than her prejudice against a new tool. So one night, driven by desperation, she decided to try it. Not to write for her, but just to see. She signed up for a platform, the one I use now called InstaAuthor, and she approached it like a scientist handling a volatile substance. She didn't ask it to write a chapter. That felt like cheating. Instead, she tried something different. She was stuck on a scene. Her main character needed to navigate a treacherous, enchanted forest. She knew the start and the end, but the middle was a complete blank. She fed the AI a prompt. She said, "My character Lyra, who is cautious but clever, has to get from the Whispering River to the sunken crypt. The forest is magical and full of illusions that prey on a traveler's regrets. Give me 5 interesting, non-combat obstacles she could face." She hit enter, leaned back, and prepared to be disappointed. What came back a few seconds later changed everything. It didn't spit out a generic fantasy scene. It gave her ideas she would have never dreamed of. A bridge that only becomes solid if you tell it a true secret. A flock of birds that sing a song of a memory you've tried to forget. A clearing where you meet a younger, more innocent version of yourself. It wasn't writing the story. It was a brainstorming partner. It was an inexhaustible intern that could come up with 1,000 threads for her to weave together. Sarah sat there, staring at the screen, and realized her entire view was wrong. Using a calculator to do complex math isn't cheating. Using a power saw to build a house isn't cheating. They are tools that handle the heavy lifting, so the craftsperson can focus on the art. This was the same thing. She was still the architect. She was the director. The AI was just the world's best, fastest, most creative assistant. But that led to a second, more practical fear. Myth number 2. Okay, fine, it's a tool, but it's going to produce generic, Clunky, unusable garbage. She'd seen the examples of AI writing online. The weird sentences, the soulless descriptions. She was worried that even if it gave her ideas, the actual prose would be so bad that it would take more time to fix than to write from scratch. And this is where the real breakthrough happened for her. This is the key benefit that took her from a frustrated hobbyist to a published author. The secret was momentum. Sarah's problem wasn't a lack of talent. It was the constant starting and stopping. The friction of getting back into the flow was so immense that she would just give up. So she made a new rule for herself. She would use the AI not as a final writer, but as a shitty first draft generator. Its only job was to get words on the page that were in the ballpark of what she wanted. Here's what her new process looked like. It's Tuesday night. She has exactly 45 minutes to write before she passes out. Before, that wasn't enough time to even get into the zone. Now, she pulls up her detailed outline and her character Bible. She gets to the next scene. Lyra confronts the illusion of her younger self in the clearing. She feeds the AI a detailed prompt. Write a 500-word draft of this scene. Lyra's voice is hesitant but brave. The younger version is naive and asks her a painful question about a choice she made. Keep the tone melancholic but hopeful. Use my style guide for Lyra's internal thoughts. 2 minutes later, she has a 500-word draft. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Is it a masterpiece? Absolutely not. But is it a blank page? No, it's a block of clay, already molded into the rough shape of her scene. The core ideas are there. The dialogue is 70% of the way. The descriptions are a starting point. Now, for the next 43 minutes, she's not a writer staring into the void. She's an editor, an artist, a sculptor. She's adding her unique voice. She's tweaking the dialogue to make it sharper. She's layering in the sensory details that only she can imagine. She is infusing the scene with soul. She transformed the most painful part of writing, the creation from nothing, into the most joyful part, the refinement and perfection. She did this, scene after scene. On days she felt inspired, she wrote from scratch. On days she was tired and only had 30 minutes, she used her AI co-pilot to maintain momentum. The cycle was broken. The book never had a chance to die on the vine. It was kept alive, day by day, scene by scene. 3 months later, she had a complete 80,000-word first draft, something that had been impossible for her for over a decade. She edited it, refined it, and published it. And that book hit the top 10 in 3 different young adult fantasy categories in its first month. It became a bestseller, not because a robot wrote it, but because a brilliant, busy human finally found a tool that allowed her to get her story out of her head and into the world. Sarah's story isn't a fluke. I see versions of this happening every single day. People with incredible ideas are finally breaking through the barriers of time, self-doubt, and the terror of the blank page. It requires a new way of thinking, a new workflow, and a community of people who are all figuring it out together. That's why I put this all together in one place. If you want to see how I'm actually using AI to write full books and connect with other authors doing the same thing, check out my school group. It's free to join. You'll also get access to the tool I personally use, Instant Author. Links are in the description. See you inside.